Mr. Chairman, it is 6:02 p.m. and we are live.
Is this us?
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the meeting of the Historic Resources Preservation Board regular meeting, Wednesday, March 9th, 6 p.m. Could I ask the clerk to give a roll call, please?
Judy Fox,
Here?
Bill Feldkamp, no. Steve Pickett, no. Chip Guthrie,
I'm here.
Ricardo Martin,
Here.
and Bob Dorenzo.
Here.
Okay, I'd like
Is
to go.
this just for the board because there are members that are not on the board on here?
No, it's for everybody, Judy. We're just going to go quickly through the items. And
Okay.
it's not a formal meeting. These are all the folks. We just promoted them, and we don't need the formal process of swearing in this evening because these are not quasi judicial items.
Without any objection, I'd like to go ahead and bypass Pledge of Allegiance.
Don't make me stand up.
Okay, and then do we have any additions, deletions, reordering, and approval of the agenda? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, let me back up here.
It's just us.
No, we do not have a quorum, so therefore we
Yeah.
cannot make any motions at all. We cannot approve the agenda. We cannot approve the minutes either. So
That's correct.
we would like to go into the new business because these are conceptual reviews. There will not be a swearing in. There will not be any motions made to accept or deny, or this is strictly basically a conversation with the applicants on what they think of the merits. They'd like to present it to the board for our comment, at the end of which we'll go on and move from each letter, from letter A to B to C and D, and take it from there. So could we go ahead and introduce new business A, conceptual review of proposed exterior improvements of a contributing structure located at 602 North K Street.
Certainly. I believe this is Wes Blackman's item. Wes, do you want to share your screen, or I can share the backup that I have?
I can try and share. Well, it says, do you want to give me
Okay.
that privilege?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on, just give me a second.
Aaron, while you're figuring that out, let me finish with Mr. Martin regarding his potential conflict. So, Mr. Martin, I just want to be clear. I'm not sure what the nature of the license is, but your potential conflict would lie if Mr. Blackman is considered a customer or client of your company, or an official or employee for your company that you work for.
Oh, it would be then, because he is employed by the company. Well,
Okay.
he's not employed as a contractual.
Right,
It's like a real estate brokerage.
right. Okay. So I think for your protection,
Yes.
to go ahead and declare the conflict, and Sherry will help you with the forms if you need help. And your forms get submitted to Sherry and to the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. You would file a form today, even though there's no vote. And then anytime Mr. Blackman comes before the board for a vote, then you would declare a conflict again.
Right. Now, do I participate in
You
it
are
or
not-
just withdraw from it right now?
You are not allowed to participate
Okay.
because of the conflict.
All right. So I'll just put it on mute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good evening and welcome to our meeting here. Conceptual as it is. I sound like the chairman here. I shouldn't do that. I was one once. Anyway, I am representing the property owners, Sarah and Doug Campbell, and David Joyner is also on the line. He is a general contractor. I have yet to meet the architect associated with this project. That meeting is going to happen tomorrow at 4 p.m. On site. This property is very unique. It's a two-story frame vernacular at the northeast corner of North K and 6th Avenue North. It's 602 North K. It's an irregularly sized property at 35 feet by 95 feet. And it is a 2-story, 2-unit frame vernacular. It really is like a 2-story cottage in many ways. I'm admitting people now, just FYI, Aaron, since I guess I'm considered host.
We'll do
we're
that,
here-
Wes. Don't worry
Okay.
about that. You're
All right.
co-host, so you can share. We
Got it.
got the ad.
Got it. Okay. We're here tonight because there are certain powers given the staff and certain powers given the board in the approval matrix based on whether the design changes for certificate of appropriateness are compatible or considered incompatible by staff. And I think as I talked with Sarah and got to know the project, got to know this particular structure, the thing that stands out for me with this structure is K Street is northbound in this location. And this is on one of my bike routes through town. And before the Campbells bought the property, I would ride my bike by it. And I always thought this house was going to fall into the street. It was leaning, obviously. And I remember consciously saying that, you know, whoever picks up that house to that structure to do something with it is going to have a real project on their hands. Well, welcome Sarah and Doug Campbell to this project here. So they have already had Peter Ringel and his structural inspector out to the property for an issue regarding the roof and the best way to follow through with that. There was concern in the re-roofing process that workers may actually be in danger by being on the roof. So the general contractor can consider, explaining a little more in detail about the conditions he found on the property in terms of the building and the structure. But this definitely has been ridden hard and put away wet. And what we're doing today is just showing you that this definitely should be on your radar. It's an exciting project. It's one that needs to be done. This restoration needs to take place. I'm encouraging them to go the tax abatement process because I really think they do meet the Secretary of Interior standards in terms of historic preservation standards, and they're also doing interior improvements. So what we're doing tonight is just briefing you on what is going to be done to the structure and if there could be any leeway given to the staff in terms of process related to things that have to be done sequentially as it relates to the structure to make the structure sound. There might have to be things that would come later in the job that would have to come earlier. And we'd like to talk about those. I think David Joyner, the contractor, can shed some more light on that. This is looking northeast at the corner of North K and 6th Avenue North. It is the blue structure. It's unusual in this area. There are some 2-story multifamily structures in this general area. There's one at 431 North L. That's the G. Sherman Childs property. But most are stucco. There's a Mission Revival 2-story multifamily just to the north, as you can see there. Again, this is on a 35-foot wide by 95-foot wide lot. It does not extend to the alley. There is a separately deeded house between the alley and the backyard of this property. So that's an important realization there. But you can see the existing conditions. And I'm including the approval matrix, just highlighting that center area that staff is given wide latitude in terms of landmark review for contributing structures for certificate of appropriateness approval. And everything that is being proposed here really is according to Hoyle and according to the Secretary of Interior standards. What I did is I included the interior improvements in the packet and the backup information that is along with the agenda tonight. But what I did in this presentation is I just pulled out what would be the exterior or what you would be considering in terms of a certificate of appropriateness. And they do plan on removing the asbestos siding, which was installed sometime during its life in the middle or early part of the 20th century. And that will be removed, and the lap siding will be re-exposed and replaced where necessary, but kept to the original style and size. An effort, if you look at, we'll get to the photo here in a moment, but there's a lot of miscellaneous wiring and plumbing that is attached to the exterior walls that is going to be removed and really is rather unsightly. But that's the type of thing that happens typically with multifamily structures in the city of Lake Worth Beach over time, as tenants come and go and new
Wes, if I could
television.
just add to your scope of what, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but part of, I remember when we were talking about this project and why we wanted to come is because this is probably going to come back for a tax abatement, even though probably everything here can be approved by staff. We wanted to check because you were going to relocate a door, right?
Yes,
On the structure.
Yes.
And we wanted you to walk through the scope of the improvements with the board to see if there was anything that they would flag that they would be uncomfortable with if it would come back for the tax abatement. And I think
Right.
that was kind of why we wanted you guys to shop. So just to give the board the understanding of why we're here today is just flag it if there's something like, oh, if you did this, I would feel really uncomfortable. Like, and it's not you don't have to decide tonight if you see something later that concerns you in the formal application, but it was to just help the applicant see if there was any red flags to be in the best position possible when they came back later
Right.
for their approval of scope.
And I think one of the themes tonight is number one, construction progress and process, but also we are now in an inflationary period, especially as it relates to construction materials. So time is of the essence here. So there may be some instances where staff could be given a little leeway, but definitely everything that is proposed here is in keeping with the Secretary of Interior standards. And you can see that the roof will be replaced in kind. This is there is nothing really scanned for the property file on this particular 602 North K.
Wes, we're not seeing a picture right now. We're just seeing windows, roof.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Okay, we'll get to a picture. Okay. The windows would be replaced with 4/1. This is right out of the design guidelines here. Okay, this is the south elevation of the property. And you can see the existing conditions. You can see the asbestos siding, the side-facing gable, the vent in the gable roof there. You can see the 4/1 windows. All those are going to be retained, but changed out to impact units. You can see the different configuration of the windows. They're awning windows on the first floor. Again, this was a multifamily structure that was ridden hardened, put away wet. I'll say that again. You can see the window shakers there in the second floor. What's being proposed here is that the entrance here on the side, which is the southwest corner with the gable over it, would be popped out, and a double series of windows like this on the second floor would pop down here. And then this stoop would disappear. And shutters would be added. This is something I'd like to address because the shutters would not be functional. They would be more of an addition, kind of just a stylistic treatment here, and are not meant to cover the windows. And I know that can be a bugaboo with some people about not having functional shutters or shutters that look like they are not functional. So we'd like to talk about that. Towards the back of the house, towards the east part of the house, what the property owner would like to do is have the same elevation of windows on the first floor in terms of the height here as and have that repeated on the second floor, and perhaps have window boxes underneath the second floor window and underneath the first floor window. And then change the configuration here, instead of a shed roof over the rear entrance, to have the gable that appears here in this same design. So the feel of the building stays pretty much the same. The windows are repeated and replaced with appropriate style. It's just a rearrangement of the person openings and the elimination of one opening. And this is a great rendering by Sarah. I think she missed her calling here. But this is a drawing by her prior to engaging an architect. And she's calling out these changes that I just went through. They're pretty self-explanatory. This is the rear of the structure. This shed roof would disappear and the gable would be extended to the east. And there's a portion that you'll see on the next picture of the second floor. This is a notch here on the north side. You can see that. This is the front, and a door would be added here in the center. So that will be the master bedroom. The stairs would remain. But again, the property owner is talking about adding shutters on the side of the window. Again, the same 4/1 window pattern, single hung design would be proposed. Now this is showing the eastern part of the property, and you can see where it does not go back the full 135 feet that's platted here. And there's 612 here that faces 6th Avenue north. This is the south elevation here. But you can see the shed here. This is going to be demolished here. This is now a closet. And then this would be extended up, and then the gable would come out to the east, and the shed roof would be eliminated, and this would be squared up to what is there now. So the footprint of the building would not be increased at all. This notch would just be filled in essentially for the second floor with the gable extended there. And this is a perfect example of all the wiring and the plumbing and the weatherhead there that is being either put underground or buried within the structure. But that is that. The property owner here, Sarah, is here to answer any questions for you. We do have the general contractor here, and I can shed some light on things if you have questions for me too. So I'll leave it with this picture here.
Yeah, I've got a few. Are you putting new siding on there with moving around all the doors and windows and everything, or is it going to be the same siding?
This is the asphalt shingle siding that we're showing here now. That's an existing condition, and the intent is to go to lap siding. So for example, where there's a door, and the contractor can jump in here too, but where there's a door, you would fill in and match the existing siding that's underneath there.
So basically,
David,
you're going to put shiplap on there, or are you going to replace what is on there now?
It depends on the condition. David, do you want to jump in?
Yes, thank you. You covered that really good, Bernard. Very good what you brought out so far.
Mhm.
Yes, that's it has 5% asbestos and that, so that needs to be abated off first to take the siding off. I feel that's the best way. That'll give me also a full look on the outside with your termite problem that we have. I did some interior removal just as on that west south corner where it's bulging out, just to see the reason why, and it's all termited. So this will give me a full on the outside exposure if I can get a demo permit just to take the outside asbestos off and then put a covering on it just to seal the wood.
What kind of covering?
Well, it's a breathable. It's a breathable, excuse me there, covering like a Tyvek that you would put on there, and then you would put your other new siding on top of that. Now
Okay.
they have siding that matches that same style as what's there, but
Okay.
but it's not.
But it's going to look like that.
It'll look just like that, the same
Okay. Now,
design that you're
you
looking.
brought up a question about termites. Are you going to have it tented?
If it's still infested, yes. We're really basically tomorrow we got the engineering coming to be able to let me know what I can do. And I did. They already got a permit to do the roof, and I suggest to the roof contractor not to put anybody up on a roof until we find out how
Correct.
structural safe this place is
That's a good
before we
idea.
can work
Okay.
with that.
I noticed a lot of window units. Are you going to put central air in there?
Correct. We're gonna put central air, a unit upstairs and a unit downstairs.
Okay,
And as
and-
Bernard talked about, all your plumbing pipe, your plumbing drain, 4-inch
Yeah.
lines, everything is on the outside. There is no electrical inside. Everything wraps around the outside
Outside.
and stuck through the walls. So that's why it needs a really total demo on the outside to be able to
Right.
get all of that and put it on. Now,
Right.
Sarah drew up something of the interior deck, a design that she wants to put on the inside, which makes the,
Yes, I saw
as
that.
that changes, it's on the east side of that building.
And you're gonna change the windows. What kind, are you putting in impact windows or are you just
Correct,
putting the regular
impact windows,
Pardon me?
hurricane impact windows. We are
You
putting
are,
it.
perfect, perfect.
Yes,
Okay, and it will contain how many units?
it'll be a
It's-
first
it-
floor and second floor.
Yeah, it's a duplex.
Sorry,
Just 2 units?
2 units.
Okay,
And if I can add and clarify about the siding, so the asbestos currently that's blue, is
Okay.
actually on top of the 1925 original lap straight wood siding. We
Yeah.
could see that with the bulge, when the bulge came out, you could see 2 layers, right? So basically taking off the asbestos, the point is to get to the original 1925. So of course, a lot of that wood is not going to be good.
yeah,
But the style that will replace the asbestos, because it has a vertical texture, kind of like a shingly kind of
Right.
look, it's difficult to see in the picture. But so no, we're going back to the 1925 lap sidings for the siding, just to make sure that was clear. I think we kind of ended up.
And
in
Judy,
circles.
for them to stay in administrative approval, they'll either have to recreate the 30 siding or go back to the original 20 siding and recreate the same profile. So if they
Okay.
were to stay with the 30 siding, they would have to stay, they would make a fiberglass product, but since they want to go back to the 20s, which would be more historically appropriate, then they would need to recreate the same profile. And we do allow, just so you know, for administrative approval, cementitious board in the same profile as wood siding. So if you wanted to do a cementitious product like a hardy board, if the profile was the same as the original 20s, that is something that we do approve for a replacement.
okay, thank you.
Well, that's why I figure we take the asbestos siding off. That's going to reveal what we have on the outside shell, so that we know what we can do there to see how bad the outside shell is. Has anything been replaced over the years, and how bad termite infected
Yeah,
it
if your
is?
termites left anything, yeah.
Yes. Now, we do have a termite infection infested in the attic on a lot of the trusses, so they would have to be reworked. And I also was able, there's only about a foot of crawl space on this building.
Oh, wow.
And what I was able to see is even your floor joists, it's a 2x6 for the full width that goes north to south.
Yeah,
And most of them that I was able to put my eye on, they're already sagging 4 to 5 inches. So the whole inside structure will have to be changed to take care of that till we can raise that. Because if you throw a ball if you're in the middle of the room and throw a ball, the window, it's going to roll right back to you. First floor and second
and you're
floor.
just gonna shingle the roof again.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
And there is already a permit open on that.
okay,
Yeah. So.
thank you. Just a couple questions.
So I would just say to direct the conversation, the real feedback we need is, are you comfortable with the removal and their proposed modifications to the door and the windows? And then I would also add that staff for shutters have to appear functional if they're not functional for administrative approval. So they have to be equal to the width of the window adjacent. So those would be the 2 staff comments. But other than that, is there anything else? Are you comfortable with this? If, obviously you don't have to say if you come back, it would be, but do you see any red flags that would make you uncomfortable for it coming back for a tax exemption?
It's kind of a
the-
guess. You don't know what you're gonna discover.
The question, the question of moving the door that is on the left side of the 6th Avenue side over around to K Street, it makes sense, and I don't have any problem with it. Is there any way that comes in the, that is opposed to keeping the structure historically historically sound, not sound, in other words, by moving the door,
Accurate.
are you changing it effectively? The historic nature of the building. I like the ideas and I understand why they're doing it, but when they're going for a tax abatement and they're actually changing the architecture of the building, not only by moving the door around to the front, but also by extending that shed roof on the back, on the second story, they're extending that out and making it more symmetrical by making a gable end over there. I don't know if when we get the entire board, if they're going to look at that saying that that is historically accurate, and is that going to be an issue, or can that be an issue?
So if you're making changes or doing appropriate additions, you can do them as long as it doesn't radically change the main contributing components of the building. So, so for this, I wouldn't say that change of that door would be something that would prevent it from getting a tax abatement from a staff's perspective. Now, if
It
you
might be
all felt
considered
uncomfortable with it, that's something that you need to let the applicant know. But from a staff's perspective, if it's appropriate and they've done it with a paired window underneath, that's something, and they've taken, probably and they've moved the door overhang to a consistent style, as long as it's architecturally appropriate and consistent and the main part of the structure is generally preserved, it would not prohibit it from the staff's perspective. And there's going to be a lot of renovation here that would qualify for preservation of the structure. So you could choose to eliminate, let's say, those windows that are not replacement windows, and or like the modifications, the costs related to the modifications in the rear and the addition, if you wanted to remove those components.
And as long as we're throwing this around, we're all aware that, and this is Greek to me, about the depth of the windows and how many quarters of an inches and all that stuff it has to be historically correct. Bill's the one who really handles that. I mean,
yeah, so
you're
we
aware
have
of that.
standard conditions
Okay.
that talk about depth, and for replacement windows, they will need to be installed at the same depth as the historic windows. That's for administrative approval. So whatever the depth is to be administratively approved, which is what they're going to try to do. So typically for a project like this, you wouldn't even see this, but again, this is just a conceptual review to see if anything that they're proposed is going to give you angst because they want to come back for the tax exemption. If they weren't coming back for the tax exemption, you wouldn't even see this project.
No, I just want to see him do it right. That's all.
Yeah, no, we take care of that.
And that's why on that east end, that whole from that door and above, all that needs to be replaced. It's really in bad shape. Whoever, that was like an add-on to the building, and it's not part of the building. So whoever built that was not a craftsman at all. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. They tried to imitate the rest of the roof, but they did not. They weren't able to accomplish that. So it needs a lot of work there. And like I say, all your service panels are on the outside, all your plumbing, stacks, everything's on the outside. So there's a lot of work on that end to get everything transferred inside the building.
So I would suggest to Wes is if he's going to handle the tax exemption application, is to pull the property file, and probably maybe some of this building was originally configured in the same way in the 20s, and we have a lot of the information. So he'll pull the property file if he's going to be the project manager for that component. But if you guys don't have any other feedback for them, if you feel generally comfortable.
I do have something else I want to get clarification on. When we're saying that the entire, you can see where there is an addition put on the back of the building, 2-story shed roof, and are you planning on demoing that entire structure and bringing it out? The face is level, is even with the front facade that is on 6th Avenue, bringing that back at that particular plane, or are you planning on leaving it offset? It looks like maybe a foot or so, maybe about 18 inches, 2 foot. It looks like it's offset to to the north. And then also it's probably the same way on the backside. Is it, are you going to be bringing that out with the same plane as the structure on 6th Avenue and on the backside, or are you going to leave it indented
So-
in like it is?
Thank you for that question. So currently, as I had it envisioned, and again, we haven't talked with the architect, but that inset where the door is, that it's actually, you know, there's that stoop. So it is inset, like you said, that would all remain. That would all remain as it is. So looking at that south perspective, that inset right there is being left. It's going to look exactly the same from the street. Both street views, the only change is that door. So the street view, they're remaining exactly the same. So
What
it's
about
only
the-
from,
What about the roof above that?
okay, so yeah, that was an earlier sketch. So again, we need to confer with the architect, but I think ideally just getting rid of the shed roof, because as David was saying, it's not constructed well. It's not constructed levelly. It's makes that portion of the room a good 1.5 feet shorter than the rest of it. It's like hitting your head. So it would really just make sense to extend to the end, you know, the gable roof that's there. Yeah.
Okay, and then therefore you're going to have sort of like an overhang of the original roof over the top of a new gabled roof, trussed roof over the addition. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it will not.
So
be
it
just-
matches the other three sides. That overhang will match. So the overhang will be consistent all the way around all four sides.
No, but that's not my question. You're going to have, okay, right now you can see a gable end above the shed roof of the addition. There's
Correct.
actually a gable vent over there. So when you put a gable end on the shed, are you going to attempt to extend the roof at the same roof line? Or are you going to have because there's also, that comes into play with the indentation of that whole addition over there. So you're going to have a roof that's going to be sort of tucked underneath the existing trussed roof. Is that
Well,
correct?
it would just have more of an overhang on that side. But it would be in line with the truss. But we can put that on blueprint. We can put that on a CAD system so that it will come out like that. We're just trying to figure out what we can do with the building now with that, and so that whatever we're allowed to do, we want to be able to accomplish what Sarah wants. But we also know we have to abide by what you have in place for us to do.
Well, the reason
Well,
I'm bringing this up is because
asking-
other jobs, other projects that have come in front of us is when okay, this is obviously, like you stated, it's an addition that was installed sometime, probably right about the same time the asbestos siding was put on there. So underneath that, you're probably not going to have the lap siding. But the question is going to be that any addition is normally made to continue on, so you can tell it was an addition. And it was not, you're not going to try to extend the same building at the same roof line or the same sideline. That was the original question. So you're going to leave it inset like it is, and it will still remain to be an addition. But when you get up to the roof, you'd still have to maintain the look that this was added on, even though it's going to resemble the architecture of the original structure. It's still going to have to have its own roof line, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Hey, Chip, if you look at this house here, I don't know if you can see the cursor or not, but this structure here, that's kind of what you're talking about. There's a line here between the gable. They're both gables, but you're saying to have the addition kind of tucked under there so it recognizes that it is an addition rather than just an extension of the main roof.
And that is something that's been brought up on other projects. So yes, I believe that if you were to try to extend the roof, that extra, what is it, 8 feet or so, at the same roof line as the original structure, I think that would be an issue. Because they're also going to have a larger overhang as it comes out over the addition. that may
Well-
cause an issue. So,
So I appreciate that feedback because when I talk with my architect tomorrow, we can discuss. So what you're saying is if the gable roof that's now, we could still do a gable roof, but it has to be lower or separate from the current gable roof in order to show that this is an extension, basically,
Yeah.
right, is what you're trying to say.
I
Okay.
believe that is correct because you will be trying to meld the newer construction of the shed or of the addition into the older structure. And I think that our previous board projects that have come up and been approved they want to make sure that there is some sort of delineation between what was added on and the original architectural structure. So yeah, that would be a sort of like a roof in the same structure as the original roof, only underneath it, tucked underneath it, and then come out and have its own gable.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be at 6 foot, it's 6 inches to a foot below that. And the reason why it's ended is because that door faces that street. If you brought that out even, then you'd be stepping right onto the sidewalk. You wouldn't have no room for a step. So I think that's why they created that little indentation at that point. to be
Okay,
able
can you talk
accomplish
to us a
that.
little bit how you're going to raise the entire structure vertically? It's gonna go up how many a foot? How high is it gonna be raised?
That has not been discussed with me yet, to raise the whole property.
I think he meant to level it
Yeah,
because whether be it the floor joists or foundation issues, which again, we've yet to really nail down because we can't access it at the moment. But for either of those two issues, it is off by, I think it was 8 inches you had said, David. So
It's a
raising it,
visible lean to the structure.
yeah, so
Okay, so
raising it
we're
to
not
the purpose
raising it.
of leveling it.
You're not raising the finished floor level
Correct.
significantly. You're only just you're gonna do whatever's necessary. Because it did say it says entire building to be raised and leveled. In the back.
Raising to be level. I'm sorry, if that, the scope of work is still somewhat fluid.
Okay. And then what is the time frame? Once you get your approval on this, we talking about this would be completed within 12 months?
well, if some of my questions was, am I allowed to put scaffolding on the sidewalk? To walk, you can walk through it. I have that type of scaffolding that if I can leave that up. I also
Well,
have.
some of
boom
those
with-
things we can discuss as staff, and some of those would be right of way permits and things. This is really for the tax exemption and for
Okay.
the historic component of the approval. The other things are staff issues.
Well,
Okay, so as
for,
far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with the door being moved around to the front, the door being moved around to the front and pairing up the windows. And I also said that it also said on here that the flower boxes, if the flower boxes were never historically there, is that something the board needs to consider? Because I know that is a component of the drawings we're looking at,
I think that's just a decorative item,
not structural,
not structural.
and not architectural.
No, I don't think they've ever come in front of us before. I don't think that would be an issue. I don't even think it would be an issue with the Secretary of Interior. I agree with, Mr. Blackman did his homework once again. Thank you, sir. I'm in agreement with you. Staff answered most of the questions. Mr. Blackman, reading through what you had, I agree with the chairman. I like the proposals. I think putting the door in the front makes sense. And I agree with what you said, Mr. Guthrie, as far as the rear of the house, doing the differentiation between the addition and the main structure. No, go for it. The house has been crying for somebody to do it for years.
And just for the record, I'd like to reiterate when we're talking about tax abatement, it is the difference of the value added to the house for the restoration and not the entire amount of taxes for the structure or for the property. So it's just the addition. If they were to take an assessment of the property today and then the difference of the property, once we've approved the final, the final rendering, that difference is what they will not be paying taxes on for a total of 10 years.
Right,
Let me
so
say
they
this
come
just
back
to
to
bring
you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, so they'd come back to you for a scope of work approval and what they're proposing to do and their estimated cost. Then they'd come back when their work is given completed and documented. And if you agree that the work was done and consistent with the scope of within the scope and the direction of the pre-construction approval, then that recommendation goes on to City Commission to approve a resolution supporting the tax abatement, which goes on to the county for further processing. So, so you guys are, you approve the scope of work and you say that the work's been done in accordance with your scope of work, but the actual tax exemption is approved by the City Commission.
Let me add this too. I've just really engaged the property owner with the idea of the tax abatement program within the past 7 days or so. And I think they're still digesting the process and what that involves. Obviously, they're doing a lot that is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards, and I think it would meet the standards for tax abatement and go forward with that. But they are not 100% in terms of going ahead with that or not. But it is, I think, a project that is ideal for it, and it would save them money over the long term. And I think everyone's interested in that. So
It encourages people to make the improvements to historic structures and go the extra to make them historically correct. So yeah, it's a win-win for the city, for the homeowner, for the, yeah, it's all the way around. I agree with that. All right, so do you have enough input for that? And can we move on to the next one?
yeah, I'm fine. Sarah, David, you okay?
Yes.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much for your time.
Thank you very much for a presentation, and we look forward to seeing it come back in front of the board.
Yeah. The last time I
Thank you.
worked with Blake Worth, I remodeled Boardwalk Joe's on the pier. I was a contractor on that one. When it would turn from Boardwalk Joe's
To
before
Benny's?
it is now Benny's on the beach, I was a contractor to remodel the pier.
Wow.
That's fine.
Yeah. So that's a few years ago.
I was going to say, I don't even remember that. So that was a few years ago. All right. Well, good to have you back
Yes, yes.
in the throes of. All right. Look forward to
So,
seeing you.
Mr.
again.
Chairman,
Thank you.
I'll move us forward just because we have 3 other folks waiting. The next one is a new single-family residence located at 428 North J Street. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. I know Kevin is here.
Okay, you just went silent.
Oh, sorry, I meant to share, not mute myself.
Okay.
So, would you all like to share your screen, Faten or Kevin? Or would you, I can share your backup that you submitted.
I'll go ahead and share my screen if that's all right.
Sure.
So the project we're discussing is 428 North J Street. Our clients bought the property, and existing on the property, there's a 2-story single-family residence. It's at the rear of the lot on the alley. It's non-contributing. This property is in the Northeast Lucerne Historic District. And you can see in some of the images at the top, there is also a very large mature mango tree on the property. It's over 40 feet tall, 7 feet in circumference, and that's towards the front of the lot. Now, the existing structure, our clients are not interested in keeping it, so we're proposing for it to be demolished. The tree, we are proposing to try to save it on the lot. And this, you can see our proposed site plan is for a new single-family residence, patio and spa, accessory structure, and parking along the alley. And then in the front where that mango tree is, we are proposing a semi-enclosed entry garden. And that would encompass the area of the tree, saving it. And that would be at the front setback. We have some images here to show. It would create that facade towards the street of a historic Lake Worth Beach cottage, the profile, while still keeping the area open. The house would then sit, behind that and open up to that almost a courtyard area. Here are some elevations. In our renders, it would be like an aluminum structure. It would create that profile at the street level, as I mentioned, of a cottage and create the continuity in the neighborhood context, blending, the past historic homes of the area and then the new proposal. We also wanted to show what it would look like within that space, looking back towards the street. And also in a nighttime setting. So at this point, we wanted to get some feedback on the idea conceptually to create this front facade.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, as you can see, staff asked them to come before you for conceptual review. This item would come before you for approval of a demolition and approval of new construction simultaneously when it would come back as a demolitions that are not condemnations require board approval. It would also require concurrent approval of the new of the proposed new construction. This structure, staff is also looking for direction. We're kind of thinking that the structure would probably most likely be closest resemble like a pergola. So it would be reviewed from a zoning perspective, like just basically a porch or another structure. So we wanted to get your thoughts on it.
It looks like art. I think it's awesome.
Do we have a streetscape on this?
I believe we have the pictures of the street views of the area that we had at the beginning. Those are the surrounding areas, properties on North J Street there. Is that what you were asking for?
Well,
So
I was just looking for the heights and compatibility, basically.
Well, you really,
It's not a full package, Judy. So this is
Okay.
just what they have for conceptual. So conceptual is just whatever they have at this point, but this is what's in the area.
Okay, thank you.
So
Judy,
there's top,
If you can see the very first picture after the views, the side views.
Yeah.
That's the conceptual, because there is a 2-story apartment building
Okay,
to the left side of it. And
and a
so,
single story on the right side.
yeah, I mean,
Correct.
Okay.
and
All right,
it's
that's I just needed to know that it wasn't going to like blurt out at you.
no,
know.
it's a 25-foot lot, correct?
It is a 25-foot lot, correct? Yes.
Okay, I was trying to look at that. So it's wedged between the 2-story and the cottage. That big mango tree is literally right in their lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
can see
as
in
you
the
can see in the
bottom,
bottom.
yeah, the bottom picture there.
Yeah.
This is the mango tree they're going to save.
Yes.
Yeah.
it's a very interesting concept.
Certainly is. It's very interesting. It's art. It's very art.
It's art, right?
It is. It's very
It's-
artistic. And
Quick-
I mean, it gives you a sense of privacy if you're in that area.
That was
Along with,
the intent as well, to add, yeah, they wanted the privacy to keep the tree, but not be on the street sitting next to the tree, but have also the openness that you want.
Okay, the only question I have is if this is a single family and they're building that extra living area in the back, they do know it's single family, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But
It's just yes.
they are in a multifamily area.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought
It's
it
an
was
apartment
zoned as
building right
single.
next door.
Yeah.
No,
there's-
it's in a
they're
multifamily.
multifamily.
And
Okay.
you got that interesting contemporary that was, what's a block away that we approved, that modular looking
Yeah.
modern
duplex.
building. The
Right.
duplex, that's just a block, I believe, a block away from this one.
You're
I
correct. There's
think-
a six
No, I like this. I think it's cool.
Right. I think it's
Yeah. It's different.
interesting. Different.
Very different. Very different. I'm glad to see some creativeness.
Right?
Let me ask a quick question, which I've been asking on other properties, which is always the trash cans.
Right. We actually
Because
do
we're
have-
coming with a lot of these 25-foot lots, and then there's no parking, hardly any park. Where do they put the trash cans? Oh, I see.
We're currently showing it on the, because it is at the front of the property, it has to be.
Okay.
Right.
trash
Okay.
pickup.
I see.
And, we would then, try to create some type of screen or landscaping to then
Okay.
have
Okay.
Or
it.
both together, like landscaping and the fence as well, just to kind of cover that
Right.
area.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Okay, one other question that we always have is parking. I noticed you put one
Car.
space off the alley. Is that all we need for this house?
Yes.
Or is this gonna come back to bite us?
No, the
So
street.
they meet the code, and
Yeah.
just to explain, the purview of the board is cannot supersede the land development regulations.
Right.
So one off-street parking space is always required, one is only required, and because, but in all development, you can meet your off-street requirement with 50% of your parking being on-street and off-street. So technically, they would have the equivalent of 2 spaces with the off-street space. But you always have to, no matter what, even if you only have 1 space required, you always have to have 1 off-street space.
And the present structure doesn't seem to have any parking because it's right on the alley, right?
No, yeah, they don't have any parking.
No parking.
So they're actually adding a space and
Correct.
keeping it
Right.
single family. Mhm.
I'm very familiar with the area. The guy that occupies the back shed over there, he parks in the city-owned, I thought it was a city-owned lot, but we actually approved something in it. One of the pictures showing the structure in the back off of the alley, the guy that lives
Right.
in there actually parks in this little, in the little widened out area across the alley toward 6th Avenue behind the 2-story apartment building. So yes, it has no parking whatsoever there now. So the new proposed structure in the back is actually going to be a little forward of the 2-story structure that's there now that will be demolished.
Yes, actually, if you look at the 3D, it starts as a 1-story, and then there's the 2-story portion is kind of in the middle where you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. So therefore he'll have 1 parallel parking spot behind the new accessory structure,
correct. Yes.
Right.
and then 1 in the front.
Now, looking at this photo, I'm just thinking, William, our other chairman, why isn't there a window on the when you're looking at it straight on the second floor, you have that 1 wall with 1 window?
We can add more windows. It's still up in the air. Like we're
Okay.
still playing with that. We haven't
All right.
finalized the design of it's very basic at the moment. We haven't added much detailing to it, the windows and all that. But we will put more windows there for sure if
Yeah.
you feel like it needs to have it. So
Okay, because the concept is very cool.
okay. We're glad you like it for sure.
It's different, yes. I wish
And
people
so-
came with more creative things like this.
And we have to remember too, it's a lot smaller than it looks. It's on a 25-foot lot. What's the total square footage?
Of the house.
Yeah, of the house itself, the front building, because I have a hard time seeing on this one.
I believe it's 1,300 square
So,
feet.
yes,
there.
I'm just saying, they're building a cottage and then a spa and then a little ancillary building in the back. So, when you're looking at these, oh my God, look at that. No, it's actually a normal.
It's like the
size
others we've seen. It's like the others we've seen that we approved close
Yeah.
to here, this area. We
Yes.
approved, didn't we approve 4 bungalows or something like that?
Yes.
It's similar in size, yeah. But it's nicer in terms of architecture,
Right.
the
And this one's
detailing, which
actually-
is what we were seeking on the other properties.
Right, and I think this one's smaller than the 4 bungalows you were referring to. I think those actually took up a lot more of the lot.
Now, are we dealing with, and Judy asked also at the very beginning for a streetscape showing the level of the finished floor compared to the properties next to it. Is this pretty I mean, because it's showing it's going to be the same. And with FEMA regulations, is this finished floor going to
J
have to
Street
be
is,
brought
I
up?
don't believe J Street is in a flood zone. They would
No,
have to
it-
look at the flood map. So it
It's
should be
not.
zone X. Unless there's something very weird locally going on in that one part of the street. So their elevation requirements will be 12 inches above the crown of road.
Okay. All right.
So they'll be fine.
So, all right, well, I think did you get enough input from that then? From the
Yes,
board members present tonight?
yes.
It sounds like you need to move forward with it. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
That
for
was
having us.
interesting.
Thank
Thank
you.
And they'll need to come back, Faten and Kevin, you'll need to make sure that you make application for the demolition as well. That has to proceed concurrently with the new construction.
Got it.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Letter C.
Okay, so this is a conceptual review for renovations. This is to a non-contributing property located at 331 South Lakeside. And this one includes the addition of a screen porch and a metal roof. Wes, is this your client as well, I believe?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
goodness gracious. Okay, goodbye, folks, for a little while.
All right, so go ahead and get started. Did you want me to share the backup that we have? I'm sorry, Wes.
Yeah, that might be a good idea for this one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, if you want.
Let me just pull it up for you. I apologize. Just give me a second.
I'm joined by Tracy Rosa Peterson. She is the property owner. You can. Okay. There was another PDF that I gave to Sherry. Do you have that? If not, I
Yeah.
can find that.
This one. This is the proposed one. Is this it? Or no, there was additional. This is like
Yeah.
in. So I think this is the original house, right?
Yeah. Let me try and share that document that I have on.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay. This is Wes Blackman. I'm with CWB Associates, and tonight I'm representing the property owner here, Tracy Rosa Peterson. I have the pleasure of representing her. And we met with staff in early February and hope to get this on as a conceptual review for the February meeting. As you know, the February meeting was canceled. And we appreciate the opportunity to come before you. This is a non-contributing structure, so we're dealing with more of a gray area here, and staff just wanted a little more certainty in terms of the board's direction for some of these questions. We will make your job easier for you. There is the mention of a metal roof here, and the existing concrete tile roof is not leaking at this point. And I have encouraged the property owner to maintain that concrete tile roof. And I know that's very important to the board that the concrete tile roofs be maintained and kept if at all possible. So what's not broken, don't fix it. So I think that simplifies things quite a deal as we go through here. This is Tracy. She may join us on the video here in a minute. She should be in the waiting room or watching. And that's the community of Jewel Mirror. She is a mural. That is her artwork. She works in tile, that's her media. She is an artist, and that is mounted on the south pavilion of the south part of Bryant Park there. And I hope you all had an opportunity to see that. So she really is engaged in the community and appreciates the history of the area, obviously, by her artwork being featured here. And then this is also taken from Ted Brownstein's book, the cover of Ted Brownstein's book, the center of that. So, and she's been involved in other things. So she really is tried and true member of the Lake Worth Beach community, and lives right across from the park that features a lot of her work, including the tiles that are on the picnic tables, if you've ever spent time at the park there, the south part of Bryant Park. So what she's going to do, there's a portion of this that would incorporate her art, and we'll get to that in a minute. So it's kind of an extension of the previous presentation in a way. Again, I'd like to point out the Certificate of Appropriateness approval matrix for non-contributing structures. Again, staff has given a broad swath here of responsibility that they can permit things without board approval for non-contributing structures, especially those features that are not facing the street. And we'll get into that in a moment. We consider this a ranch structure. If you look at the house, and there are pictures coming up here, this is taken from the city's design guidelines. And it is definitely in keeping with the large overhang, the hip roof, the window design and orientation with the door, the fenestration the way it is. The garage is a separate building with a large overhang that was built in the 70s. So that came later on, and we can see that in the survey. This is the center part. Let's see. Yeah, this is the center part, which you can see kind of the ranch characteristics here with the entry, and then a side entry here. This is facing south off of 4th Avenue South. And then this is the 4th Avenue South frontage, the southeast corner, the south facing windows. These are really the major, the only windows that would be viewed really from the right of way in a direct manner, in a very significant way. And this is the garage that was added in the mid 1970s. And you can see the entrance off the alley here, but just to show you the configuration of the lot, what we would like to do is point out that the ranch windows, this again is from the city's design guidelines, really offer a wide range of styles that were present in the mid 20th century, mid to late 20th century. And we'd like to point out the fixed picture window here as a typical design style for this. What Tracy is wanting is a horizontal roller configuration, and she initiated contact with the historic preservation staff when Jordan and Abraham were still there. I think she has emails going back to April of last year. So again, we're in a price spiral here of increasing prices for replacement windows. And she would like to get these ordered as soon as possible. And that's part of the reason for the conceptual review tonight. The doors, she's enamored with this asymmetrical light for the replacement door that would face east, which we'll see in a minute, which appears in the design guidelines. Just to walk you through the property here, this is South Lakeside Drive to the east. There's a tile walk, which you'll see here in a picture. Well, you can go back to, if you remember, the first slide was a view of the building approximately from this location looking to the northwest. And you really can't see this because there is substantial landscaping here, but she has some clamshell awnings here over windows. And what is being proposed is a east-facing porch that would extend the entire length of this building. Now, the width of the building, not the length. So the 36.1 feet. Immediately when Abraham saw this, He brought up the building coverage ratio, and I can talk about that in a minute. So anyway, this is the current east facade as I was describing. This is, looking without any landscaping. This is textured, kind of applied brick, typical of the mid-century ranch kind of decor here with the center door. This is existing conditions with a clamshell, and you can see the cement tile roof. And the next would be what is being proposed. Now, we can segment this into the window replacement and the porch addition. Now, remember that this elevation here would have a screened-in porch extending from it, and we'll go into some different configurations about that. But the main departure from what is there is this sliding door configuration. What we're looking for is as much of a sense from the board that we can get in terms of what could be approved by the staff. And if there are things that would have to be asked for, like the sliding door, that's something we could consider in the future. But the idea is to get as many windows here conceptually acknowledged that staff can go ahead and issue the permit on this. This has been through many iterations. This is a drawing done early on. You can see the metal roof here that was discarded and the gable extension here. This is not being proposed, but I'm just showing you this is an iteration, and this is the property owner's handwriting here. So she really has dug in and done this. Consistent with this, though, is a small knee wall that would run around here, which is consistent with the style of this mid-century ranch sort of style. This is another one where she engaged an architect, and the key dimension here is 9 feet. This is a rather deep dimension here. And that's when I started to get concerned about the building coverage issue, and we can address that in just a minute here. But you can see this would be the sliding door, and these would be the sliding, the horizontal roller windows. And these would all be screened in openings here. The gable would not necessarily have to be there. We can see this. This is more of a close-up of that eastern lawn area. And due to the ground coverage issue for the building coverage, really, we're essentially limited to what is the existing paver area for the patio. The impervious issue for the entire property is probably close to 60%. And if there is some concern about that, there are some walks that could be removed to bring that into line. But we're definitely not in the mood to ask for a variance here because it would be a self-imposed hardship in terms of building coverage. So that limits the width potentially of the porch. And this is just kind of a back of the envelope sort of calculation here. We have a 6,750 square foot lot area, 2,555 square feet of total building coverage. The existing building is that, and 40% of the lot area, which is the building coverage maximum, is 2,700 square feet. So given that, the front porch could be 9 feet, but it could only be 20 feet wide. So it would not take up that full elevation, the eastern elevation. And it would be asymmetrical, possibly, symmetrical or asymmetrical. So that's something you may want to discuss if you have a leaning one way or the other. My thought, not being an architect, would be to have that extend 20 feet from the north side of the building, the existing north side of the building, and extend that south 20 feet. And that would land somewhere between south of the main door and the window that is to the south side. If the depth of the porch were 5 feet instead of 9 feet, you could go the full width of the structure. And that would be really the property owner's call in terms of if she really wanted that 9 feet. So those are some options here. Now, this would be the full extent of the eastern porch elevation after the addition of the porch. Again, the depth would have to be 5 feet if it went the entire length of the elevation. This is the drawing that Tracy did herself, and you can see the integration of her artwork here in the columns and the tile, which is a real neat way of expression, and then ties it into the
This is with the flat or slightly angled roof, right? That we had talked about.
Yes, this would be like a metal or an asphalt roof, depending on what works best. But it would be non-ornamental. It would not be an extension of the clay tile roof. It would be in and of itself, and it would definitely be an addition to, and that's typical to mid-century porches, is that they would have simple roofs.
Mr. Blackman, excuse me, real quick. Is there enough walkways to eliminate one? Who wants a 5-foot deep porch? I mean,
yeah, unfortunately, we're here with the building at 40%, and that's the footprint of the building.
Right.
So, and there are two different coverages that we have to be concerned about. We have to be concerned about the building coverage and ground coverage.
Okay.
So ground coverage, we can gain a lot by removing some of the sidewalks and other paved areas, but we're not going to decrease the size of the building. In fact, it would be added to with the addition of a porch. And she would also like to do some sort of porch on the south elevation too, which we'll get to in a minute.
Okay, I'll sit up.
But this is an example of some of her artwork, and this is emblematic of what would be like in the column area. You can see the motif there. And this is the shutter up quote. The blue circles indicate the north and the west sides of the property, which are not seen from the street. And staff has indicated that they're okay with permitting those because we cannot see those from the street, and all those would be horizontal rollers. These, if we go ahead with the porch, really would not be seen, and they almost become interior windows at that point because they would be behind the screen porch. These would be the most visible. And these are called out as horizontal rollers without the grids. And this is the existing south elevation. Again, this is just a drawing done by the owner. You can see that. These are the various sliders that we were just talking about. This red box here, this was a section that was enclosed in 2002. To make closets for an interior space there. But this is also the concept of a trellis or shade sails or something, which would not add to the building coverage, but would provide some shade or some relief and a sense of entrance to this other door here on the side. And then this is just, some samples that might be applicable to that particular location. So that's the presentation there. We can go to any one of these slides if you'd like to, and I hope Tracy is on and she can add anything that I might have missed.
Wes, why don't we break this up in parts? Because why don't we talk about the windows, just the portion, because I know she'd like to move forward, not the porches. So if you can go back to your shutter up quote and then the pictures of the windows.
Yep.
Actually, can you do the pictures of the windows that are visible from the street?
Okay, there are horizontal rollers, and the best representation is this. Unfortunately, we didn't include a cut sheet in this, but
right. So the reason why we're here is just some feedback is that horizontal rollers on these ranches, especially to replace awning windows, are not something that staff can typically approve. So one of the discussions that we wanted feedback on from you all today was, is there a like a mutton or mullion configuration on the horizontal rollers that would be more comfortable to be administrative? Like, could we perhaps do a mutton or mullion configuration that would work better with the architectural style, or because typically they would have been, I guess they could have been a jalousie window, or they could have been another window. If you're comfortable with this and you feel that this is architecturally equivalent to the design guidelines, that's something that we can look at working with them on For non-contributing properties, we just ask that the window is architecturally compatible with the house. It doesn't have to replicate what historically was there. So just because there was awning windows there, they don't have to replace with awning windows. And if you can go back to the ranch options, Wes, this would be the style, the feedback of the windows for the structure. Because there's so much going on here, we kind of wanted to bring this and get some feedback. So you can see they would have been, oh, you went one too far, go back. There would have been a jalousie. It would have been, no, go back to the other one, the windows,
Okay.
the window options. So
All right.
you were there. It would have been a
This is
jalousie.
the sort of look that we're looking for here.
Right. It would have been a jalousie, a fixed pane and steel casement, or an aluminum awning. So this had aluminum awnings, and the question one is if this came back to you, or would you feel comfortable if something was in this configuration? Because it really isn't, and it really is substantially non-contributing with the add-ons and things. It's really not a good candidate to become contributing. So what style would you feel comfortable with? Any style of window? Would you feel that a horizontal window could typically jalousies are replicated with casement or fixed pane glass, not horizontal rollers. That's just something.
They are proposing horizontal rollers all the way around the house.
Yes.
And we have recently, the board has recently approved when we had a similar situation just down the road where because of it being non-contributing, he wanted horizontal rollers without any mullions or muntins on the non-street facing windows. The board felt it was to be compatible with the rest of the house, that it would be okay to go ahead and extend those without any muntins in the front as well. And it kind of brought the whole house into a consistency. Me personally, I don't have a problem with them going with the horizontal rollers all the way around without any muntins, because this is more of an artist's rendition, and to open it up as much as possible. I think it would look good from that perspective from the street. And because the house, with it being awning windows, you're going to change from awning no matter what. So the question I would have is, what is the proposed frame? Are they going to be white frame, anodized aluminum? What's proposed?
Yeah, it would be white frame aluminum windows. We can look at the shutter up quote, and it's all called out there in the left-hand column.
And they're all clear, right?
Yes. Well, I think they're 70, yeah, SB 70s. So they're all, they meet your standard terms of.
Okay.
Well, we now consider clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fiberglass
One
impact
of the
rated
questions.
door. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
One of the questions I have, if you're talking about a 9-foot porch or a 5-foot porch, where can you capture enough permeable land that you can make it a 9-foot porch? Because
Well, before
you
we
don't
get
want a
off
porch
track,
stopping
Judy,
in the middle.
All right,
Judy,
Judy, you
let's-
jumped ahead of us.
Yeah, let's stay on the windows.
Jumping ahead? Okay.
Yeah, let's jump to this because this is like a 5-part kind of deal.
All right.
So I just wanted them to get a feedback because they're going to pull the trigger. They would like to buy these windows, and I said let's get some feedback from the board on this because the style of windows that she wants to buy, and one of the things we talked about is not including, because there was also, if you can go on the front facade, there's a part of this quote includes sliding glass windows on the side. And I'm just gonna, Wes, I'm gonna stop your share for a second.
Sure.
And I just want to
Yeah.
kind of explain this here. So
Okay.
this is the from 2011. I'm only going to 2011. It's not what it looks like now because you can kind of see the house a little bit better. Sorry, I'm on Google. But you can kind of see here, they want to change out one set of these to be
Sliding glass doors.
sliding glass doors. So we're getting away from, you can see now, I mean, the house has had a lot of additions and you can see why it's non-contributing. If you kind of come here, you can see that there's a lot of a lot of additions that have happened over time, and a garage that has been attached. So, so that's why it has its non-contributing status. But if you can look here, this is where, sorry, I'm going to make you guys sick.
What are you doing?
I know, I'm sorry, it's not cooperating. Okay, so this is from 2011. It doesn't look like that now. This is what it looks like now.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, but you can't really see the structure. So we'll go back to the 2011 one. So one of the things we wanted them to get feedback on is because they'd like to go ahead and purchase these windows, is if one, you know, are you comfortable with the horizontal rollers? And then are you comfortable making these sliders? Because
Yes.
this is,
Which brings me back to the porch, because if you can't see it, what difference does it make?
well,
Thank you.
that's the problem, is you can see it. So this is where the porch would go on Lakeside Drive here. So
Right.
this is where the slider would be. So this is a corner property, and this was technically, although the main front entrance is on the side, the technical front of the lot is on the Lakeside Drive. So this is technically at the front of the home.
Okay, so what,
from
Is
a
that the
zoning.
portion that's going to have the porch?
This is the
Correct.
portion that would have the porch, and this is where the sliding glass door would be. And
what
then,
I understand, Aaron, is that the two proposals for the porch, because of lot area coverage, they could have a 9-foot wide porch, but it would extend from the right-hand side of the picture you're showing us now to just beyond the door. And the existing windows on the left-hand side would still be visible from the street. So the porch would stick out 9 foot, and the sliding glass doors would be behind the porch section. See, the
Yes.
porch would extend to the left of that door, and she'd get her full 9 feet for just from the left side of the door over to the right side of the house. Is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
Or she could go 5 foot all the way across, which I would imagine she'd probably want to do the 9 foot out in front of
Right.
the door and the sliding glass doors.
Which leads me back to my question, is where can we grab enough land that she can have the 9 feet and get her
well,
sliding glass
we don't
doors?
have to do the math today. It's just the conceptual review, or is are you okay in concept? They're gonna have to produce a survey and do all the calculations and demonstrate to staff that they meet the zoning requirements. So we do the zoning requirements.
So the main thing we would like to take away tonight would be conceptual approval or directing staff to go ahead and release as many of the horizontal roller windows as possible after tonight, so that Shutter Up can go and apply for a permit for as many horizontal rollers as you would think would be appropriate for this building.
And Wes, did she make a deposit on these windows? I can't remember.
Can I
Um,
speak? Is it okay
yes,
if I?
Oh
please.
yeah, Tracy. Hi, Tracy.
Hi,
Hi, the
hi,
artist
everybody. I haven't seen those old pictures of my house for a long time. My husband was still alive then, and we planted a lot of that. He brought that giant rock down. It weighed, I think, 2 tons from the Morel Marine. So you're bringing up a lot of warm memories from me. And one thing my husband and I did a lot of was add landscaping. We have not done anything to the house. He's been gone now 2 years. We've hardly done a thing to the house, but what we have done is a lot to the landscaping because we wanted trees. As you saw, there was one picture with not one tree on the property. But I did want to mention when I started this process with Shutter Up in almost January of last year, that front left window we're looking at was about $3,000 to replace the horizontal roller, and the cost has now gone up to almost $3,400. So of course, I started it before like we ever knew what supply chain. I never had even heard that word before. So that's where I'm kind of at this point. And I was working with staff, and then staff changed and things changed. So yeah, one of my main concerns right now, and yes, I have given right now Shutter Up is ready to submit the proposal for just the windows on the west and the north side. It's 6 windows. And even though on that one drawing that Wes had, there was 3 doors. So you saw a lot of little what look like windows, but they're actually doors or like a laundry room where I'm not replacing some windows. So there's actually only 6 windows on so far that they're ready to submit. But I've asked them just to hold off until now, because if I can get approval for these horizontal rollers, and then that would be great. You know, they could, because they're going to come out and remeasure on Friday, and then they could submit everything at one time. But the other question for me was, I was just debating this sliding glass door. If I can't have an enclosed screened in porch, I was like, do I really want a sliding glass door? Because I'm a mosquito magnet and I get huge, I'm almost like allergic to them. So I really, if I'm going to be able to enjoy a porch, and yes, I would love to have the porch go across the whole front of my house and be as deep as possible. And so Wes has showed me, you know, depending on the numbers, when we get down to brass tacks, you know, I may not be able to have a 9-foot deep porch that's 36 feet wide. But that to me is most compatible as I ride my bike around also Lake Worth for the last 20 something years. We actually bought this property in '99 before there was a historic preservation laid on top. So I really thought I didn't know I was part of it. And when my house to me is like kind of a big square. So I didn't actually know it had some value. I thought all those cute little cottages were the ones that, you know, were contributing and, you know, meant something. But so yes, Shutter Up has a small deposit for the north and the west side, but I would like to be able to give them the deposit for the rest of the windows, the sliding glass door, and my front door, and everything is going to be hurricane and have that low E, which is compatible with the number 70 or something that you guys said. And
so the north and the west side are not visible from the road. So those are what we talked about. You could move forward with in the quote. So really tonight is about, because that's not reviewed for historic compatibility by staff. Because it's not visible, it's a non-contributing structure. So really is what we're trying to get you some feedback, Tracy, tonight is on the stuff that you can see from the street, and then what needs to come back to the board and what they feel comfortable with. You know, we have to, because you're changing the windows and you're adding this porch structure. So I think if the board, unfortunately, I don't know, Elizabeth, can we get formal direction?
We can get a consensus. We can get consensus, yeah, 4 members.
Yeah, so I guess the first consensus item would be, are you comfortable because of the non-contributing status, and then the current, as far as like the modifications that have been made to this particular structure, not taking this out for all structures, are you comfortable with staff moving forward with approving a horizontal window configuration, or would you prefer a fixed or casement window or a different configuration?
I'm okay with horizontal rollers and if she decides to go with the sliding glass door, it's all going to be impact, right?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I'm okay with the horizontal roller windows and the sliding door.
Judy,
I
what are
agree
your
with
thoughts?
Chairman.
I am not so sure about the sliding door unless we can get a 9-foot porch in there. I think a 5-foot porch is too small for that.
So, so she has, like we said, we can talk about the porch now. Wes, I'm going to stop the share if you want to go ahead and share to the page of what the porch would look like.
Can I back up just a second, please? Judy,
Yes.
if right now with the lot coverage, she would be able to extend a 9-foot porch, but it wouldn't go the full length of the house.
That's right. It's going to cut the house off.
And it would stop just past the door, but she would have 9 foot behind the or in front of the sliding glass door. That's what she'd be allowed at this point, according to the math that we have. So and she would not want to put a sliding glass door behind a 5-foot porch. I think that's what I heard her say.
No. What I was saying is if I can't have a screened in porch at all, I didn't want a sliding door. And the pavers that are there now, the tile is 6 feet from the wall. So I've been living on the tile and pavers that's only 6 feet wide or deep, I guess it would be. And that's the porch that actually when my husband was in a wheelchair and then a motorized wheelchair, he was even able to go over that. So it almost was ADA because I was the one making the ramps for him. So I mean, it's skinny, and that's why I wanted something a little bigger if I could get it. But so I still would like a sliding glass door if I can have any screened in porch, but I never was getting a 100% yes from anybody I asked that I would be allowed to have a porch. So
I was gonna say, you just brought in screened in porch, which is the first time. I'm
Right,
hearing
so this is the second component of this ask, is the screened in porch. And so for this, when the original configuration, staff had talked and met with them, and we had recommended a flat roof or an angled roof, which would be more compatible with the architecture. Because while we don't require non-contributing structures to be preserved, we do require them to have additions when they propose additions that are architecturally compatible. And so the original one was a slightly different proposal, was a slightly different architectural style. And so we had recommended a flat or slightly angled roof here. So if you wanted to provide some feedback now on what type of roofing material might work best, what type of, we had talked about, I know we had talked about a membrane roof, perhaps that was slightly angled flat roof. With staff with the more simple post, kind of like this, and she's showing her tile work here. And then she wanted the knee wall. So are you okay, one, with a screen porch? Are you okay with a screen porch in this general design, whether it's for a portion of the front facade, or, well, it's not, it's sort of the front, but it's not, right?
Yeah.
Well, my house is a duplex, so this is the
Okay.
east front door. And when you look it up on the county, for some reason, I guess it must have been a one house. So the county has 110 4th Avenue South as the front door. I am 331 and I am the front door.
So this is a multifamily?
Yes, it was once a 5-bedroom house, but it got, before we bought it, it had already been divided into 2 apartments, 2 meters. We have 2 electric meters, 2 water heaters.
So for this this particular entrance, are you comfortable with the with this one using the adding the, there seemed to be a consensus about the sliders, and then are you comfortable with the proposed concept of a flat roof addition for the entire front facade or for a portion of the facade?
I hate flat roofs, but you don't have much of a choice on this one because of the hip roof. I don't see much of a choice on that, but the rendition that you're showing now is sort of like a straight on at that level. But the columns are going to be substantial, are they not? Are they going to be like a foot all the way around, or?
Well, the architect first had them as 8-inch columns, and then he changed it to 12-inch columns. And then, yeah, and we were just trying to balance it all out. So, yeah, he went to 12-inch columns. So, but that may have been depending on the type of roof he was designing at that moment. And we had quite a few iterations. So I'm kind of confused at the moment what it would
And
actually
that's
have
going
been.
that's going across the whole house. That's not,
That's
that's
35
foot.
Yes. And the important point to realize here is that regardless of what sort of porch is proposed, it would have to meet the zoning code. And that's what Aaron was saying, is that the staff and we would certify as to the building coverage and making sure that it didn't go over that limitation of 40%.
Yeah, and that's whether you're in a historic district or not. The zoning code is for all properties within the city. So those are requirements for building lot coverage apply to everybody, whether you're in a historic district or not.
Can you apply for a variance to the building lot coverage?
You can, but staff cannot support a variance where it's a self-created hardship, which
Brings me back to my question. Can't you find it in there somewhere to make something more permeable?
Well, the problem is that they're over their actual building lot coverage, not just
Oh.
their impervious. So they
Yeah.
have too much structure. There's a lot of building on this lot.
Okay.
It's a very long, very built lot. So that's part of the issue, is that they've used up kind of their allowance. So
Is
so
there-
they're
is
gonna
there-
look at that.
Is there any other ways to remediate for building lot coverage, installing underground drains and nothing like that? No?
I have one question. On the roof, if the roof didn't extend out 9 feet, let's say the roof extended out 5 feet from the house, but then there was a few more feet of screened in porch. So like the roof was half roof and half screen. Does that make it more fittable?
You still have your permeable. You're still,
I'd
you're
have to
still
look at
covering
the-
too much area.
Right, so there's two things. I would have to look at that. We can have that
All right, so
conversation.
we're basically here to say, do we like the concept of a porch?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. You know, what the square footage is, that's gonna be handled by staff, but with those gorgeous tiles and all of that, I don't have an issue with the porch and or the
No.
windows or the sliders.
And I've got a screen porch on the front of my house because my wife is also a mosquito magnet. And, and we enjoy being able to open the door and let the breeze go through every once in a while. Not today or tomorrow, but maybe over the weekend.
Sunday.
So I don't have a problem at all with the screen porch on the front. I actually think that it could possibly look good with that 9 foot and then cutting back into the house to the left of the door. I think, then it
Right.
accentuates
Like-
the window.
Like about here.
Yeah, it accentuates that window that's going to be on the left-hand side. And it still utilizes the pathway. You're going to have a separate entrance door on the patio that will bring you into your main front door, which you decide you can, leave it open and get some breeze through there. So I don't have a problem with any of it. I think it's going to be good. It's not contributing. So I think it'd be fine.
I want to mention one other thing about, the knee wall. That one actually is a little lower in the picture than it might actually end up being. But, I plan on living in this house the rest of my life. And I am, we've had the park's gotten flooded in the last 2 years more than it ever has in the past 20 something years that I've lived here. The water hasn't gotten onto the street, but I don't know if you've been at the south end of Bryant Park or just in the middle when we've had some of these king tides and floods, and it's gotten higher than even during the hurricanes, the depth of the water in the park. And you can see on the seawall the next day how far when it's high tide and king tide and some massive rains and our drains are filled up. So part of that whole idea of the knee wall, not only because it's architecturally compatible, but it makes me feel like safer because if I'm gonna, that water can't get into my house. So that's part of the knee wall thing too. Function.
Okay, so I think we still have another one, so we need to keep moving. Tracy, so I think Wes, you have some good direction to assist Tracy. And there was some feedback that this kind of last concept that you brought with the flatter roof and then the wider columns was what the board would be comfortable seeing that back.
And staff, did you get a level of comfort from the board about the direction on the horizontal rollers?
Yeah, I'll talk to the DRO and make sure that we can do that, but we can chat tomorrow and see.
Okay, all right.
I have one quick little question. Thank you so much for taking so much time. This is so helpful for me. It's amazing after my 1.5 years of this. On the south side, I wanted to do a little cover over the other front door that we talked pergola. And so as long as it kind of matches this front patio in style, is that also doable?
Well, I think we'll have to look at your building lot coverage depending on if it's a cover or depending on what it is. And we have to look at your impermeable surface. So we can work with you and Wes on that on the other side. Okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and attention.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay. So moving on, we have 1017 Southway. Denise Cravey is the architect for this project. This is a new construction. The structure on there was, Denise, was the structure demolished? I know the structure that was previously located was condemned on the property.
Yes, it was condemned and demolished.
Yes, so this is a new construction, replacing that. Would you like me to share your backup?
Yes, please.
So is this a good place to start?
Yes, this is good. So this is our second conceptual review for this property, which is proposed to be a new construction home in South Palm Park. We are proposing a new historic style to this district, which is the prairie style of architecture. So our design here, we're showing the elevations. We wanted to get some feedback before we move forward with any other type of COA process. Our design has characteristics of the prairie style with its horizontal lines, multi-pane bands of windows, the geometric details which are shown in the railings, the low-pitched hip roof, and heavy porch posts. I'd also like to add that we are presented with the challenge here of the pending base flood elevation, since we are in that A&E flood zone. So we are showing the streetscape elevation as it would have been at the old base flood elevation and then at the new base flood elevation. The houses along this side of the street are mostly one story, but if you look across the street, there is a two-story structure, which we have also done a streetscape elevation, which would be on the next page. So this is the front elevation we're proposing in the prairie style of architecture, and wanted to get your feedback about this new design.
Who wants to go first?
Okay, I wanted to say that I did meet with the owner or the gentleman that's gonna, I guess, build this in front of his lot. And he wanted to get some feedback from me on what he was proposing. So I just wanted to disclose that and let everybody know. So I did mention to him two things that, not that I disliked or liked, but that he should maybe change is the railings. And my only other commentary was the effect on the neighbor with respect to building this two-story on the increased height of the property, and if there's some way of mitigating that with either a wall on the side of the property, running the length of the property with the neighbor, and some sort of inclination coming from the road, maybe pushing back the house a little bit. I didn't mention pushing back the house. This just comes to mind now, so that it doesn't look so overwhelming on the street. Because it's two stories, and how much is the elevation this is going to go? On top, the land has to go up how many more feet?
It's going to go up about 5 feet.
So this first level really isn't reflective, correct? Or is it?
So, if you look at the bottom line, that's the 5-foot elevation.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm sorry.
And another
Yes.
option that I'm just thinking of, just to your point, Rick, is I have seen in the Keys where when they meet the flood elevation, where they kind of tier the yard, where they have a smaller retaining wall and then a flat lot and then a smaller retaining wall around the lot. So they do kind of tier the yard. So so that the impact is not so from the street. It's not like a mound up from the street. It's a little bit set back and then it pops up and then it. So that might be something to consider.
Now,
That would be
can this
real
house
nice.
can this house be moved back a little bit where it's not so imposing from the front
Well, this
Yeah.
is not the location on the
lot?
lot. I think we
Okay.
have the conceptual survey. Yeah, so you can ask them to increase the setback, but this is just what it would look like from the
Okay.
architectural components.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost that. So it's not a site plan, but that's something that's a good comment.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, we can move the house back. I don't think the owner would have any hesitation doing so.
Now, the railings is my only other comment. They look nice and balanced, but I think, I don't know, it's just, I don't know if they look a little bit
Swiss.
too, or it may be, I know people want modern homes, and sometimes, I love modern homes, by the way, modern architecture. I like flat roofs, unlike Chip, and but
Just as addition.
but sometimes I think these railings, I see them like all over Boca. It's like all over in all the cookie cutter developments. And I think it should be more like maybe try to grasp some of the historical around, even though it's modern. Maybe do something a little bit simpler. Yeah.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
Okay,
But other than that, it's nice.
can I cut in here? I wish we had the rendering that was given to us at the first conceptual, because it did not have any roof lines or design on it. It did not have streetscape. And did not have, one of the things that I remember being brought up is that it didn't appear to have porches. It didn't have an overhang. And that was one of the things that is sort of indicative in South Palm Park is a front porch. And so that was mentioned. And I believe that the architect has brought that back. In other words, we got the streetscape now. You can see how, I mean, look at the difference between the top streetscape where the first floor is sort of even with the soffit of the houses on both sides of it, and then you can see the difference when you add on an actual FEMA required floor level. It's going to add steps to it. They're going to have obviously they're going to have to go up to the garage quite a bit. Let's see, it's a 3 foot higher than what was originally planned on having it there. They did add more of a porch feel to the front because that garage made it, I think the garage made it a little bit difficult because I believe that sets forward of the rest of the house a little bit, doesn't it? Does the
If we
garage
could
set forward in the
look at the
face?
floor plan, you could see where it lines up.
Floor plan.
So there is a front porch.
Yeah, there's a
So
front
where-
porch. They're calling it a covered terrace.
Oh, I
here.
see. I see now.
And a
That's the second
covered
level.
entry. So, the garage kind of goes forward of the front porch, so to speak. The steps going up, if you see
Mhm.
that,
Yes.
you see that on the left, so the steps are going up there, and there's going to be a covered porch to the left over there in front of the doors. And so we did mention that we would like to see a porch on the front. There was no roof detail on that one the last time it came in front of us. They're showing now a metal roof. Is that, is that to me looks like they might be melding two designs here too, but I like metal roofs no matter what. So if they came by with a barrel tile roof, I think it would look appropriate as well. I don't have a problem with the railings. When I saw the railings, I wish we had the rendering that was brought in front of us because I don't know. I don't recall the railings having any detail at all. And Rick, what you're saying is you think these railings have too much detail.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to match all the stone and the
I think they're trying to go with that prairie style.
Uh-huh.
You think more of a vertical railings like
Like more of a, what's that architect from Chicago? That's very simple, but like Lloyd Wright type of a prairie,
right?
thicker, just simpler. I would think it would look nicer with the stone and all that. And I think the porch idea was great if that's what was discussed. To me, my main concern is the height, but that you can't avoid because that's the new law.
Mhm.
Is how do you soften it, I guess, with landscaping? And I don't know, well, you have a driveway also in the front, so you have to have, you know, typically you can have a walled front yard with like kind of a.
Well, I think Aaron's idea of tiering the yard, well, it'd be tiered from the garage door to the south.
Yeah.
That idea is, you see that up north too with the stone walls where they tier it.
Yeah.
I think that, and you do the right landscaping, I think it would work.
Yeah, with the right landscaping.
I mean, it's 5 feet.
It softens the approach. It softens the streetscape a little bit. It's not
With the right landscaping.
Yeah.
I mean, when the street floods, it's the house to go to.
I think all the neighbors will like that new sanctuary.
That'd be your house. One of my questions on this thing is, when it rains, where does the water go?
In the street.
Fall into your neighbor's yard?
It floods, yeah.
It's not allowed. It's by code. It cannot go into the neighbor's yard. So you can see they've proposed a retaining wall, and in all of the new development that we have approved, the building official has required a retaining wall and required drainage to show that none of the water will go onto the adjacent property. And so they're also required to meet the city's flood requirement, which is a 3-year, 24-hour storm as well. So they'll need to be retaining their drainage on site, except what naturally would run off into the street.
So what is the consensus? Do we like this style more, or we want to, okay, we've got, you know.
Can I say something?
Is the roof okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Judy?
Roof's fine. You know I love metal roofs.
Okay, yes.
It's the railing. I agree with Rick on this. The railing is a little too gitsy for me. You know, it takes away from the house.
It's an awesome looking house.
It is.
It's a great looking house, but I think the
house is beautiful.
railing takes away from the house.
It's a big improvement for sure from what we saw last time. And so I would say that I would wonder, do you have enough input from the board to go back and play with the railings a little bit before you bring it back?
Absolutely.
That's about the only thing we have any issues with. Is that correct? Board?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe move the house, like we said, move the house back a little bit.
Give it.
I don't even see how, because the other houses, let's see. Are you saying that you need to move the house beyond the front facades of the other houses?
Yes, to move it back a little bit so it's not so imposing on the street.
But we already have a 20-foot setback from the front on that
end? So there's a 20-foot required setback, and just keep in mind that these are not the homes as they're set back. These are just the homes in a row. So this doesn't provide the perspective, streetscape perspective. This is if you were to line up all the houses right next to each other, this is what it would look like. So what they can do is when they provide a rendering, Denise can render. Maybe she can include one of the structures, or at least the placement of the adjacent structure in one of the renderings to give you guys some context.
And I'm just saying, because I live on South Palm Way, and you can go up and down the street, and all of the houses are pretty much the front facades of all the houses are fairly even due to that setback. I mean, I can look straight down and see, everybody's about even. So I mean, if you had one that sticks back a little ways, obviously it would not impose, but we already have a good sized setback in the front because we don't have sidewalks.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Thank you everybody for the feedback on that house. Yes, we make a lot of change. I'm fine. We look on a different railing style. How Mr. Chip say, we already have about 20 feet setback from the street. I don't know how much I can push the house back, but I'm willing to hear and see what I can do. Definitely, I will look the railing to fix it, to get a different style.
So I would just say, and what I'm hearing, Nestor and Denise, is the one is again, simplify the railing one, and then to come up with kind of a plan for the yard to have the yard have a more easier transition than just mound it up. They want to see some type of, especially for compatibility with the neighborhood. So I would say when you bring this item back, come back with a site plan for where, and show on the site plan where your retaining walls will be and the material of your retaining walls, and then what the neighbors would be looking at as far as a retaining wall material and any landscaping that they would be looking at for mitigation. And if you have any trees proposed for screening on the sides or a hedge or something to soften the neighbor's perspective, anything like that would be something, because while your scope doesn't extend, you can, for architectural compatibility, you can make recommendations for yard and landscaping conceptually as this board. Because of the height difference, that's usually outside of your purview, but that is something you could provide some feedback on with this because of the difference in the height. So. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Did I say that right, board? Are you comfortable?
You did good.
Yes, the house looks good. So
one more thing. I also, I need to disclose on the record that I did meet with Nestor prior to this meeting at my office and looked at the plans and the drawings.
So I think that's it, unless Denise and Nestor, you have any additional questions of the board?
I don't.
Thank you very much for bringing this forward again. It's a big improvement over what we saw last time, and I wish you luck.
And Denise, you're going to hang around, right, in case there's any questions about when we do the condemnation updates, right, in the next section? Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is planning issues, and I just wanted to go ahead and share with you. We have 2 items. I will go ahead, just give me a moment, and I will navigate to the things that I want to pull up for you. There have been 2 condemnation orders of properties within the city. Okay.
Was this part of the packet that we got?
No, this is part of, it wasn't in the packet. I wanted to,
okay.
I wanted to provide, I thought I put it in that. Hold on a second. I just went to the wrong one. So, I swear I put it in there. Huh, weird. Okay, so if you recall, 106 North Ocean Breeze.
Excuse me, Aaron, I need to recuse myself from this conversation.
Well, this is just a notice, so there's no decision.
Okay. All right.
You don't have to recuse yourself. I'm just notifying you.
Involved in that purchase. Okay.
Yeah.
I was the realtor.
Thank you for being on it.
It was condemned, so there's no choice here. It is what it is. So,
is it the 2-story apartment building?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna pull up, this is the thing that I wanted to share. Hold on one second.
Yeah, the old boarding house.
Yeah, Denise is the architect. So it was the old boarding house here on North Ocean Breeze. You could, to quote the realtor, you could punch a hole in the wall because of the termite damage. So the developer, what is the developer's name? I'm sorry, it's not coming. It's Robert Miller. Robert Miller. So Denise is going to be representing Robert Miller. They're going to actually reconstruct this this particular building. Mhm.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's basically beyond repair. So it's going to be reconstructed in accordance with the 2018 approval that was extended. So this was the bed and breakfast, and then this was the hotel structure, and this will be a 2-phase project.
Okay, so the bed and breakfast and another structure is going to go on the north side of this once it's demolished, in the lot next to it.
Yes, so the first phase would just be the reconstruction of the bed and breakfast. So that is would be this particular structure, if you can see my mouse.
Right. Okay.
And then they're going to break down or tear down the other part too?
Well, the other part is was proposed for new construction that was approved in 2018. That's a new building. So that's so that building will be a second phase. They're still planning to do the original plan.
And that's already approved. How long do our approvals last? Forever?
So they don't last forever. Approvals last for a year. They can be extended up to another year, but they can also be extended through emergency orders. So hurricanes and things like that. So COVID-19 had an emergency order. There were several emergency orders. So this had a couple extensions on it. They now have the right buyer that wants to move forward with this.
Okay, and so, I mean, let me paraphrase why I'm asking that. We approved a lot division on South Lakeside Drive at in the 1100 block, where we let the guy tear down half of the structure and then leave the other half because he was going to house equipment in it while he built one. And that particular place has got a for sale sign up on it now. And so now we've got a half torn down structure on lot that I guess we did subdivide the lot or allowed him to break up the lot into 2 75-foot lots. And there's no time frame for us to bring this back and say, look, you know, go ahead and tear down the rest of the house and make it all, you know, make it all a lot if you're going to sell it as opposed to build on it. Do we have any, is there a way that we can make provisions in some of these things? In other words, when these people tear down this boarding house, that's fine, but you don't tear half of it down and leave it there for years, you know?
Yeah, so that was just an anomaly of that particular approval. Typically, as staff, we don't recommend retaining any structure when a demolition occurs. And we typically require not only the structure, but all accessory structures and all improved surfaces to be removed.
Okay.
So that's our standard. That was a specific request by that particular applicant that you all granted. We can look at that. If you send an email to me, we can follow up with that and see where they are with that. But I'm going to go ahead and move on, Chip, because so that's my notice for 106 North Ocean Breeze.
Okay,
so thank you so much, Denise, for staying. I just wanted, if you had any questions with relative to that, I wanted her to be around.
Thank you, everyone.
So there is one additional notice on K Street.
K Street.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. And now I find it, of course. You know, I'm going to pull up the photo of the structure. This is this structure was condemned. This is 324 North K Street. And you can see here. So this structure was condemned. It was Abe and Jordan went out before they left, and they had not retained a great deal of its integrity. It was originally determined to be contributing, but it had been substantially modified over time. And then subsequent to the fact, work was done without permits that further deteriorated the structure. And so it basically is what it is today. It was so deteriorated that more than 50% of the structure would have had to been repaired, and it would have met the fire code because of the side setback. So
these people over here.
That was
So-
the one that they gutted, right?
Yeah, they gutted it. It was already had lost its kind of contributing.
Yeah.
It had already deteriorated and had been modified. It was kind of probably on the line for being designated originally, honestly.
Yeah.
And then it was been modified. And then the last person pulled electrical and plumbing permits, but did not pull structural permits, and increased all the window size on the side where, you remember, you're only exempt from the fire code if you keep your openings the same. They modified all the openings. They did a lot of work to it.
So is this the same owner or is it a new owner?
So it was multiple owners. The last owner did this work, and they got to a stopping point. They were red tagged when it was by the building department. They went in to discuss and with what the level of rot that was in there, basically, and then what the person had done to repair the rot was just basically, it made things a little worse, not better. And they were already pretty bad.
Is the owner a licensed contractor?
I don't believe so. So they were working as an owner builder, I believe, but I can't be sure. But basically the same thing is that the building official went in and condemned the property.
Okay.
All right.
So
Thank you for that notice.
So that's it for me. So that concludes staff's updates.
All right. Are there any other staff comments for the board?
No, if you can just give me 2 seconds.
Going home.
No, hold on a second. I just have to my husband actually is outside my office. Hold on just 2 seconds. He needs the key
Hi,
to get
honey.
in the house.
Hi, honey.
Okay, so now that we got ourselves, she's not, no, like, we're being taped still.
I want to be in Africa with Bill.
I was just thinking, I wonder what time it is over there.
Oh, God. I loved it over there. I wish I was back.
It was so awesome. Yes, I was so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Is this under board member
All right.
comments?
All right.
Okay, so we're beyond the planning issues and departmental reports. Anything to report?
No,
No,
we
thank you.
received, I guess on the Gulfstream, we have received the resubmittal. After we issued initial comments, and we're reviewing to the packet this week to determine when if they need another resubmittal and when their potential hearing date would be.
Okay, I received a email that said that we're going to have one. There was another presentation that was slipped in at the last moment for L&M.
Oh, really?
What
Did anybody
presentation?
else get that? Nobody else got that?
No.
No,
Oh, geez, what am I dreaming this up here? Maybe
You're
it was,
special.
maybe it was a
Sure.
nightmare.
What I got an email from Aaron, which said something that the board had requested. I wasn't in that meeting. Some rendering or some proposal or
Yeah.
something. I couldn't make
No.
of it from Ann
Oh, yeah.
Fairfax.
So
Yeah,
if you remember at the meeting, Bill had asked that the Fairfax alternate proposal be sent out to you all.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's not a presentation.
But let me
No.
ask in respect to that, did she propose an RFP when it was sent out by the
No,
CRA?
no.
So why are we getting that?
It was requested by the chairman that you be aware that it was out there at the discussion in the meeting.
Well,
Bill
she can
asked.
always go through an RFP and put a proposal through.
Okay, so, but that did not come in front of us as a presentation tonight, so that's
No.
sort of moot. All right, can I ask for board member comments? Rick, do you have anything to comment?
Nope.
Mr. Dorenzo,
I'm good, sir.
Ms. Fox,
Nothing, thank you.
I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I
Second that.
second.
All right, you all have a
All right.
great
You too.
rest of the night and look forward to seeing you guys next